"Do not touch that car. You have no idea what it's worth." The words echoed across the parking lot of Oak Valley Elementary as parents turned their attention toward the old mechanic standing beside a vehicle that seemed far too valuable for someone like him to approach. But what nobody knew was that the man they were judging would soon become the only person a billionaire trusted without hesitation. Ethan Walker never cared about appearances. Every morning, he arrived at his small neighborhood garage before sunrise, unlocked the doors, turned on the old radio, and prepared for another day of honest work. His hands carried the marks of years spent repairing engines, but his heart carried something far more important: the promise he made to his daughter Lily that he would always be there for her. That morning, Ethan had taken time away from the garage to attend a special school event. Lily was presenting a science project, and like every other parent, Ethan wanted to see his child feel proud. He stood near the school entrance wearing his faded denim jacket, plaid shirt, blue jeans, and work boots, looking like a man who belonged behind a repair counter rather than among the city's most successful families. Across the courtyard, Sophia Bennett arrived with her son Noah. To everyone else, she was the woman behind one of America's largest companies, a female billionaire chief executive officer whose decisions influenced thousands of employees. But on that morning, she was not thinking about business meetings or financial reports. She was simply a mother hoping to watch her son smile. Then something unexpected happened. Noah's carefully prepared science display slipped from the table when a sudden gust of wind moved through the courtyard. Papers scattered across the ground, and several children rushed past without noticing. Sophia quickly tried to gather everything, but before she could reach the final pieces, Ethan was already there. "I think this belongs to you," he said calmly, handing Noah the missing pages. Sophia looked up, surprised. "Thank you. You did not have to stop." Ethan smiled gently. Someone needed help. That was enough. It was a simple sentence, but stayed with her. Most people who approached Sophia already knew her name. They knew her company. They knew her success. They often treated every conversation as an opportunity. Ethan did not ask who she was. He did not notice the expensive watch on her wrist or the people who usually surrounded her. He only saw a mother trying to help her child. Later that afternoon, Ethan noticed Sophia standing beside her vehicle in the school parking lot, looking concerned. A small warning light had appeared on the dashboard, and she was unsure what to do. Several parents walked by without stopping. Ethan looked at the vehicle, then at Sophia. "Would you allow me to take a quick look?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. She did not know his name. He did not know hers. In that quiet moment, between two completely different worlds, a connection began. Not because of money, not because of status, but because one person chose kindness when nobody expected him to. And sometimes, the smallest acts of grace are the ones that change everything. The small garage on Maple Street opened before the sun came up, just as it had every morning for the past 12 years. Ethan Walker unlocked the front door, turned on the lights, and listened to the familiar sounds that made the place feel like home. The quiet hum of the old refrigerator in the corner, the soft music from the radio, and the sound of tools being placed carefully on the workbench reminded him that a simple life could still be a meaningful one. To most people, Ethan was just a mechanic, a single father running a modest repair shop, a man who wore the same work jacket almost every day. But to Lily, he was the person who made every difficult moment feel easier. That evening, Ethan sat across from his daughter at their small kitchen table while she finished her homework. "Do you think my project was good enough?" Lily asked, looking at her science notes. Ethan smiled and placed his coffee cup down. "Lily, the best projects are not the ones that look perfect. They're the ones made with care." She smiled because she had heard those words before. Ethan always reminded her that effort mattered more than recognition. Across the city, Sophia Bennett was living a completely different reality. Her office occupied the top floor of a modern building overlooking downtown. The walls were made of glass, the meetings were carefully scheduled, and every decision carried millions of dollars in consequences. Employees respected her. Investors trusted her. The world saw a powerful female billionaire chief executive officer who had built an empire through intelligence and determination. But when the office became quiet at night, Sophia often looked at the photo of Noah on her desk and wondered if success meant anything when she missed the small moments of childhood. The next morning at Oak Valley Elementary, Ethan and Sophia crossed paths again. Their children were working together on a school assignment, and the two parents found themselves standing near the playground while watching them. "Noah talks about Lily often," Sophia said with a warm smile. Ethan nodded. "Lily says he is very creative." For a moment, the conversation felt surprisingly normal. Sophia noticed something unusual about Ethan. He did not speak to impress her. He did not try to learn about her career. He did not ask questions that many people asked after discovering her success. He simply talked about children, school, and everyday life. It felt refreshing. Later that afternoon, Ethan received a call from the school office. Sophia's vehicle had a minor issue, and someone suggested she speak with the mechanic who had helped before. When Ethan arrived, he carefully checked the problem and explained everything clearly. "It is just a small electrical issue," he said. "Nothing serious. You should be able to drive normally after this." Sophia watched him work. She noticed the patience in every movement and the honesty in every explanation. Many people in her world measured value by achievements, titles, and financial success. Ethan seemed to measure it differently. He measured it by whether someone needed help. Before leaving, Sophia offered to pay him for his time. Ethan politely refused. It was only a few minutes. Sophia looked surprised. Most people would not say that. Ethan smiled. Most people are probably just busy. As she drove away, Sophia found herself thinking about the man from the small garage. She had met countless executives, celebrities, and influential people. Yet the person who made the strongest impression was someone who did not know her importance and never tried to discover it. Ethan returned to work that evening without realizing that his simple kindness had already created a memory Sophia would not forget. The following week, Oak Valley Elementary prepared for its annual Community Science Showcase, an event where students presented their projects while families gathered to celebrate creativity and learning. The school courtyard was filled with colorful displays, folding tables, handmade posters, and the excited voices of children explaining their ideas. Ethan Walker arrived early with Lily, carrying extra supplies because he knew his daughter liked to be prepared. He adjusted the small display board, checked the labels on her project, and reminded her that confidence mattered more than perfection. "You know what makes a great presentation?" Ethan asked. Lily looked at him curiously. "What?" He smiled. "Being proud that you tried your best." A few steps away, Sophia Bennett arrived with Noah. She carried a folder filled with his project notes and listened carefully as he explained every detail. To the people around them, Sophia looked like the successful business leader they often saw in magazines. But in that moment, she was simply a mother helping her child feel ready. As the event began, Ethan noticed a younger student standing quietly near the edge of the courtyard. The child looked worried while trying to organize a project display that had become confusing. Several parents passed by, assuming a teacher would handle it. Ethan walked over and offered a gentle smile. "Need a little help?" he asked. The student nodded. Ethan did not take over. He did not tell the child what to do. Instead, he asked questions and helped the student find the solution independently. "Sometimes the best ideas are already there," Ethan said. "You just need a little patience to see them." From across the courtyard, Sophia watched the moment carefully. She had spent years surrounded by talented people who solved complicated problems every day. But this simple act caught her attention. Ethan was not trying to impress anyone. There were no cameras, no important guests, no reason for anyone to remember what he had done. He helped because helping was part of who he was. Later, while the children worked together on their displays, Sophia approached Ethan near the refreshment table. "You always seem to notice when someone needs help," she said. Ethan looked slightly embarrassed. "I guess I just know what it feels like when someone needs a little support." Sophia studied his expression. There was no desire for praise, no expectation of appreciation, only quiet understanding. "You know," she said, "many people would have walked past." Ethan looked toward Lily and Noah laughing together nearby. Maybe they were just busy. Sophia smiled softly. She knew that answer was exactly what made him different. He never assumed he was better than anyone else. He never acted like kindness made him special. He simply believed people deserved respect. As the afternoon sunlight moved across the schoolyard, Sophia found herself thinking about how rare that kind of character had become. In her world, people often wanted something from her. They wanted opportunities, connections, or recognition. Ethan wanted none of those things. He did not even know the full story of her life. He only knew she was a mother, a parent standing beside her child. That evening, after the showcase ended, Sophia sat in her car for a few quiet minutes before leaving. She looked at the school building, the families walking toward their vehicles, and the small garage owner who had unknowingly reminded her of something important. True value was not always displayed through success. Sometimes it appeared in the quiet moments when someone chose kindness without expecting anything in return. The rain began falling over Oak Valley Elementary just before the afternoon pickup time, turning the streets into shining paths beneath the gray sky. Parents hurried toward their vehicles. Children carried backpacks over their shoulders, and the sound of raindrops filled the quiet spaces between. The school buildings. Ethan Walker stood near the entrance holding Lily's umbrella while checking that she had all her books. He noticed the way she smiled when she talked about her science project and felt grateful for another ordinary moment with his daughter. A few feet away, Sophia Bennett walked with Noah toward her vehicle. The Billionaire chief executive officer who managed important decisions every day looked completely different in that moment. She was not surrounded by assistants or business partners. She was simply a mother trying to get her son home safely before the weather became worse. When Sophia pressed the button to start her vehicle, nothing happened. She tried again, but the engine remained silent. She looked at the dashboard and took a slow breath. Noah noticed her concern. "Are we going to be late?" he asked. Sophia smiled gently. "No, we're going to figure it out." Several parents walked past while making their way through the rain. Some offered a quick glance, but continued toward their own cars. Ethan noticed the situation while helping Lily put on her jacket. He could have walked away. His garage still needed attention, and he had responsibilities waiting at home. But he saw a parent and a child who needed help, and that was enough. He walked across the parking lot. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked. Sophia looked up and recognized him. "I think my car decided it needed a day off." Ethan smiled. "Would you like me to take a look?" She hesitated for a moment, not because she doubted him, but because she was not used to accepting help without knowing someone's background. Then she nodded. "I would appreciate that." Ethan opened the hood and carefully checked the vehicle. Rain collected on his jacket, but he did not seem bothered. He examined each detail patiently, the same way he approached every repair at his small garage. After a few minutes, he found the issue. "It looks like a loose connection," he explained. "Nothing major. It just needs a little attention." Sophia watched as he worked. She noticed he never rushed, never complained about the weather, and never acted as if he was doing something extraordinary. To him, it was simply helping another person. After making the adjustment, Ethan stepped back. "Try it now." Sophia started the vehicle, and the engine came back to life. Noah smiled. "You fixed it." Ethan nodded. Sometimes things just need someone to pay attention. Sophia reached for her wallet. "Please let me pay you for your time." Ethan shook his head. It was only a few minutes. She looked surprised. "You really do not want anything?" Ethan glanced toward Lily waiting nearby. "I think showing our children that people help each other is worth more than a few minutes." Those words stayed with Sophia. She had spent years meeting people who measured every interaction by what they could gain. Yet this man had helped her without knowing her name, her company, or her success. He only knew she needed assistance. As Ethan walked back toward Lily, Sophia watched quietly from her vehicle. The rain continued falling around Oak Valley Elementary, but something inside her felt different. For the first time in a long time, someone had treated her not as a billionaire, not as a powerful executive, but simply as a person who needed a little kindness. The days after the rainy afternoon at Oak Valley Elementary felt strangely different, even though nothing around Ethan Walker had truly changed. The small garage on Maple Street still opened before sunrise. The same customers still arrived with familiar vehicles, and the same old radio still played quietly from the corner of the workshop. Yet somewhere across the city, Sophia Bennett found herself remembering the simple kindness of a man who never once asked what she could offer him. Meanwhile, Ethan continued living the same way he always had. He repaired cars, prepared dinner for Lily, and made sure his daughter knew that being a good person mattered more than being noticed. One Friday morning, Ethan received a call from Principal Anderson at Oak Valley Elementary. The school was preparing for its annual community fundraiser, and they needed someone with mechanical experience to help restore a classic vehicle donated for the event. When Ethan arrived at the school storage building, he saw an old covered car waiting beneath a layer of dust. As he pulled back the cover, his eyes widened. A 1965 Ford Mustang stood before him, showing years of neglect but carrying a sense of history. "That is a beautiful car," Ethan said quietly. Principal Anderson smiled. It belonged to a family that wanted it restored for a special purpose. Ethan carefully examined the vehicle. He did not see a valuable possession. He saw a story waiting to be remembered. Over the next several weeks, Ethan worked on the Mustang with the same patience he brought to every repair. He cleaned each part carefully, repaired small mechanical issues, and brought back the beauty hidden beneath years of silence. He never rushed the process. To him, restoring the car was not about making something expensive look impressive. It was about respecting the memories connected to it. One afternoon, Sophia arrived at the school after receiving an update about the restoration project. She walked into the storage building and stopped when she saw Ethan standing beside the Mustang. The sunlight from the open doorway reflected across the polished surface of the classic car. "My father loved this vehicle," Sophia said softly. Ethan looked surprised. "I did not know it belonged to your family." Sophia smiled gently. "Most people do not know that story." She explained that her father bought the Mustang when he was starting his first business. Before the company became successful, before the recognition and achievements, there was just a man with a dream and a vehicle that reminded him to keep going. Ethan listened carefully. He did not interrupt or try to connect her story to her wealth. He simply respected the memory. "Your father sounds like someone who understood hard work," Ethan said. Sophia looked at him and smiled. "He would have appreciated the way you treated this car." For a moment, the two stood quietly beside the restored vehicle. Their world still looked completely different. One person had built a business empire, while the other had built a life around honesty and family. But both understood the value of patience and dedication. Before leaving, Sophia thanked Ethan for helping preserve something meaningful. He nodded and returned to his work. He still did not know the full story behind the woman he had been helping. He did not know her company name carried international recognition. He only knew that she was a mother, a daughter, and someone who cared deeply about a piece of family history. And that was enough. The morning after the Mustang restoration project reached the school newsletter, Ethan Walker noticed something unusual when he arrived at Oak Valley Elementary. Parents who once walked past him without a second glance now looked at him with curiosity. Some smiled. Others whispered quietly among themselves. Ethan did not understand why a simple school project had attracted so much attention. To him, he was still the same father who repaired cars during the day and helped Lily with homework every evening. He never expected recognition, and he certainly never searched for it. That afternoon, Principal Anderson invited Ethan to a small gathering where the school would announce details about the upcoming fundraiser. When Ethan entered the room, he saw Sophia Bennett standing near the display of the restored Mustang. She smiled warmly when she saw him. "You did an incredible job," she said. Ethan nodded politely. It was a beautiful piece of history. "I was just happy to help." A few parents nearby listened carefully. They admired the vehicle, but many were more interested in the connection between Ethan and Sophia. They had discovered that Sophia was not simply another parent from Oak Valley Elementary. She was the founder and chief executive officer of Bennett Global Holdings, one of the most successful companies in the country. The information spread quickly through the community. By the next morning, everyone seemed to know. Ethan was working at his garage when his longtime customer Frank walked in holding a newspaper. "You might want to see this," Frank said with a smile. Ethan looked at the article and froze for a moment. There was a photograph of him standing beside the Mustang with Sophia. The headline mentioned Sophia's company, her achievements, and her reputation as one of the most influential business leaders in America. Ethan read the article slowly. The woman he had helped in the rain, the mother he had spoken with at school, and the person he had treated like anyone else was a billionaire. Frank looked surprised. You really had no idea? Ethan folded the newspaper carefully. No, most people would have acted differently if they knew, Frank said. Ethan looked at the photograph again. That was exactly why I am glad I did not know. Those words stayed with Frank. Ethan had met someone famous and powerful, but he had never treated her differently because he never saw her status. He only saw another person who needed help. Later that day, Ethan arrived at Oak Valley Elementary to pick up Lily. He saw Sophia near the entrance with Noah, and for the first time, there was a quiet uncertainty between them. Sophia noticed immediately. You know now, she said softly. Ethan nodded. I read the article. She waited, expecting questions about her company, her success, or her life. Instead, Ethan looked toward the children playing nearby. I hope the Mustang project means as much to your family as it did when we started. Sophia felt a wave of emotion because his first thought was still about the memory, not the money. You're not upset? She asked. Ethan shook his head. No, I just understand why people treat you differently now. Sophia looked down for a moment. That is something I've gotten used to. Ethan smiled gently. Maybe that is unfortunate. The simple honesty of his answer touched her. For years, Sophia had been surrounded by people who reacted to her success before they ever saw her as a person. Ethan was different. The truth had finally been revealed, but instead of creating admiration, it created a new challenge. Could two people from completely different worlds continue to see each other the same way after everyone else saw the difference? The days after Ethan Walker learned the truth about Sophia Bennett felt quieter than before. Nothing had changed at Oak Valley Elementary. Children still ran across the playground. Teachers still welcomed families every morning, and the maple trees still covered the sidewalks with golden leaves. Yet Ethan felt the difference. The same parents who once saw him as just another father now looked at him with curiosity. Some seemed impressed. Others seemed suspicious. Ethan had lived long enough to know that attention could be just another form of pressure. At Brooks Auto Repair, he returned to his normal routine. He repaired engines, answered customer questions, and spent evenings helping Lily prepare for her next school project. He never mentioned Sophia's wealth at home because he did not want his daughter to believe that money changed the value of a person. One afternoon, Lily noticed her father becoming quieter after school. Dad, are you worried about something? She asked while placing her backpack on the kitchen chair. Ethan smiled and shook his head. No, sweetheart. I'm just thinking. Lily looked at him carefully. About Noah's mom? Ethan paused for a moment. Children often notice things adults try to hide. Why do you ask? Lily shrugged. You used to talk more when you saw her. Ethan smiled softly. Sometimes adults make simple things complicated. Across town, Sophia Bennett was having a similar conversation with Noah. They sat together in her apartment after dinner, looking through pictures from the school event. Mom, did Mr. Walker do something wrong? Noah asked. Sophia looked surprised. Why would you think that? Because everyone knows you are important, but he talks to you like you are just another parent. Sophia smiled gently. She knew her son had noticed something many adults ignored. That is because he sees people differently. Noah looked curious. Is that a good thing? Sophia nodded. Yes, it is very rare. The following Saturday, Lily and Noah met at Brooks Auto Repair to finish a school assignment. Ethan prepared a small table in the corner of the garage with supplies, while Sophia brought materials from the school list. For a few hours, everything felt normal again. The children laughed, shared ideas, and worked together without caring about differences between their families. Ethan watched them with a quiet smile. Sophia noticed how naturally he guided the children. He never made them feel like their questions were too small. He listened carefully and encouraged them to think for themselves. You are good. With kids, Sophia said. Ethan looked toward Lily and Noah. They just need someone to believe in them. Sophia looked around the garage. It was simple. There were no expensive decorations, no signs of success, and no reminders of her corporate world. Yet she felt more comfortable there than in many impressive rooms she had entered before. "You know," she said quietly, "most people act differently after they learn who I am." Ethan placed a tool on the workbench and looked at her. "I understand why." Sophia lowered her eyes. "Does that bother you?" Ethan shook his head. "No, I just think everyone deserves to be known before they are judged." Those words stayed with her. In her world, people often saw the title before the person. Ethan had done the opposite. He had seen a mother, a neighbor, and someone who needed help. Later that afternoon, as Sophia drove away from the garage, she realized something important. Ethan had never treated her like a billionaire. He had treated her like a human being. And for someone who had spent years surrounded by attention, that simple respect felt more valuable than anything money could buy. The week before the Oak Valley Elementary Charity Festival brought a sense of excitement throughout the community. Classrooms were filled with decorations, students practiced their presentations, and parents worked together to prepare for the annual event. Yet behind the cheerful atmosphere, Ethan Walker and Sophia Bennett were quietly learning how difficult it could be when the world noticed something that was never meant to be complicated. Ethan arrived at the school every morning with Lily, carrying her project materials and reminding her to enjoy the experience. He noticed more people looking his way, but he continued acting exactly as he always had. He repaired cars at his garage, cooked dinner for his daughter, and spent every evening being the father Lily needed. He never wanted recognition. He only wanted to create a good life for his child. Meanwhile, Sophia continued managing Bennett Global Holdings, but her thoughts often returned to the simple moments she shared at Oak Valley Elementary. She had spent years surrounded by people who admired her position, yet very few people ever saw the person behind the title. Ethan was different. He never asked about her company. He never tried to gain an opportunity. He simply treated her with the same respect he offered everyone else. One afternoon, Sophia visited Brooks Auto Repair after school. She arrived without assistance, without business partners, and without anything that reminded people of her success. She carried a small box of supplies for Lily and Noah's science project. Ethan looked surprised. "You came all the way here just to bring these?" he asked. Sophia smiled. "I thought the kids might need them." Ethan nodded with appreciation. "They will be happy." As they worked together in the garage, Sophia looked around at the simple space. The old tools, the organized shelves, and the handwritten notes from customers showed a different kind of success. It was not displayed in numbers or headlines. It was displayed through trust. "You built this place yourself," Sophia said. Ethan nodded. "It took years." "Were you ever afraid it would not work?" she asked. Ethan looked toward a photo of Lily on the desk. "Every day. But fear is easier when you know why you're doing something." Sophia became quiet. Those words reminded her of the early days of her own company. Before the success, before the recognition, there had also been uncertainty. Later that evening, Richard Coleman, a member of the school parent committee, approached Sophia during a planning meeting. "You should be careful," he said politely. "People may misunderstand your connection with Ethan." Sophia looked at him calmly. "What exactly is there to misunderstand?" Richard hesitated. "You are not from the same world." Sophia looked toward the school hallway where children's artwork covered the walls. "Maybe that is the problem. We spend too much time deciding who belongs in which world." Her response was quiet, but it carried confidence. She was no longer interested in hiding a friendship simply because others viewed life through status and assumptions. The next day, Ethan found a note from Sophia asking him to join the festival preparation team. He smiled when he read it, but he also wondered if accepting would create more attention. He looked at Lily's drawing on his desk and remembered something important. His daughter was watching how he handled the world. And sometimes, showing courage did not mean making a loud statement. Sometimes it meant simply standing beside what was right. As the festival approached, two families from completely different backgrounds moved closer together. They did not know what the future would bring, but they both understood one thing. Genuine respect was never created by wealth or reputation. It was created by the quiet moments when people chose to see each other clearly. The evening of the Oak Valley Elementary Charity Festival arrived with a warm golden sunset covering the school courtyard. Strings of lights hung between the maple trees, families gathered around colorful booths, and children proudly carried their projects through the crowd. At the center of the celebration stood the restored 1965 Ford Mustang, shining beneath the soft glow of the lights. For many people, it was simply a beautiful classic car. But for Ethan Walker and Sophia Bennett, it represented something much deeper. It represented patience, memories, and the unexpected connection between two people who came from completely different worlds. Ethan stood beside the Mustang with Lily holding his hand. He watched her smile as she showed her project to classmates, and that was all the recognition he needed. He had never repaired the car for attention. He had never helped Sophia because she was successful. He had simply done what he always believed was right. Nearby, Sophia stood with Noah, looking across the courtyard at the community that had become an important part of her life. For years, she had attended events where people knew her because of her company, her achievements, and her position. But tonight felt different. Tonight, people saw her as a mother. They saw her as someone who cared about her child and her community. Principal Anderson stepped onto the small stage near the center of the courtyard and thanked everyone who contributed to the festival. When he mentioned Ethan's name, the crowd turned toward him. Ethan looked uncomfortable as everyone applauded. He was not used to being noticed. He had spent years quietly helping people without expecting anything in return. Lily looked up at him and smiled. "Everyone knows how special you are now," she said. Ethan smiled back. "I just hope they remember that everyone deserves kindness." A few moments later, Sophia stepped onto the stage. She looked toward Ethan before speaking. "This car belonged to my father," she said. "He believed that anything meaningful takes time, patience, and care. Ethan restored this vehicle, but more importantly, he reminded me of something I had almost forgotten." The crowd became silent. Sophia continued, "Success is not only about what we build. It is also about how we treat people when there is nothing to gain." Ethan lowered his eyes, humbled by her words. He never wanted to be celebrated as someone extraordinary. He only wanted people to understand that kindness should not depend on someone's name, career, or social position. After the announcement, Richard Coleman approached Ethan. The same person who once questioned his place beside Sophia now offered a sincere smile. "I was wrong about you," Richard said quietly. Ethan nodded. A lot of people make judgments before they know the whole story. Richard looked toward the families enjoying the festival. I think we all needed that reminder. As the evening continued, Lily and Noah played beneath the lights while Ethan and Sophia stood nearby watching them. There was no dramatic promise, no perfect ending created by wealth or status. There was only a quiet understanding between two people who had learned something valuable from each other. Ethan had shown Sophia that genuine respect could exist without expectations. Sophia had shown Ethan that his kindness deserved to be recognized. The autumn wind moved gently through the trees as the festival lights reflected across the restored Mustang. In that moment, everyone understood the truth that had been there from the beginning. The most valuable people are not always the ones with the greatest achievements. Sometimes they're the ones who choose grace, dignity, and kindness when nobody is watching.